Good evening, everyone.
Hello everyone, a warm welcome to your Wednesday evening class.
Today is all about patadas, kicks.
Kicks, so today we'll be kicking for him and kicking for her. So I think the funny thing is, if leaders, you kick her in the first part, she will kick you back in the second part. So you might actually think twice before you kick.
So we're going to teach you how to kick the right way.
Exactly. The right kick, very important for the stability and harmony between the Tango couple. So they are all like safe kicks if they are done properly, of course. So we'll show you a few pointers how to make them safe. Good. So should we start?
Yes.
Okay. So
I thought we started already.
we started already. It's true. So we have 45 minutes with you guys. This is the beginner and improver class. We always start with a little bit of technique, and we have 15 minutes break at 7:45. 8 o'clock is intermediate and advanced PATADAS, so for advanced dancers. So I think you will enjoy them a lot today. It's quite fun. All right, here we go. So we start.
Good luck.
Good luck. Good luck to us as well. Okay, so a few words for leaders first. So, as always, I would like, if you're beginning today, I would like to stress a few points when you start your tango. First of all, you have your feet together, have a nice stretch, so make sure that you basically add an inch to your height, 3 or 4 centimeters if you can, if you really stretch nicely. And make sure that when you go up, the shoulders are not going up with it. Really down the shoulders, so free up the neck, make it free of the shoulders. Now, once I'm in this posture here, I'm going to have one more thing to add, is my hips going back to have some weight on the heel. So I'm not starting this way, I'm starting that way. Today is going to be even more important for patadas. You will understand why very shortly. And I'm going to start any movement in tango. For example, I'm going to move forward as a leader with what we call the projection. The projection is simply the foot starting its travel forwards before even traveling with the chest. And I'm going to do one thing, which is contracting the back of my thigh and my glute to start pushing on the heel and do what we call the translation, which is this thing here, going a little bit further. Now, whilst I've arrived, this is called the middle point or center point. We have 50-50 weight on both legs. Make sure that you pass by this point, don't rush it. This is a very important point, very important, especially again when it comes to lots of things, but including patadas today. And whilst I'm here, I'm going to finish my weight, my transfer, with using not the torso, not the hips, using the foot and the leg, pushing myself forward all the way to the feet, to the toes, and finally I bring my feet together. Very quickly, I'll show you before we go and have a look at followers. Projection, translation, middle point, make sure you're stable by pushing the floor, and then push on the back leg to keep a good balance and pushing you forward and finishing with the collection. Alright.
Okay, guys. Yes, so we are going to start with our... Thank you very much for the adjustment. So we're going to start with our transferring of the weight. That's the first thing that happens. The leader communicates the transfer of the weight, and then from here we're going to take it in our first stage of the step, which is the projection. I'm going to push in the middle point, keeping the heel off the floor, and weight is distributed in the middle, and toes are having equal weight at the back and at the front. From here, I'm going to keep pushing from the front leg, taking my center back into the collection. The heel is going to drop, and I'm going to recover, do it one more time, recover in the position. I'll do it one more time. Project, push, transfer and collect. Project, push, transfer and collect. Of course, we're not going to do it this slowly. I'm just breaking it down for you. And later, I believe I'm going to show it with Bruno when you're ready.
So, I'm going to face my partner completely, and I'm going to start with my invitation. My left is inviting her, she's going on top. My right is completing the embrace. We're going very, very quickly here because we've done this quite a few times. And I'm going to establish chest contact, closing the embrace if I can. If you're a complete beginner, you can keep it a little bit open for now. And I'm going to start pushing with the back leg, and this creates this projection. I'm going to follow suit with the rest of the caminata here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Know that I take my time. Again, I use the middle point as a means to stabilize myself and make sure that I have a good connection with my partner. Especially that point is very important to slow down a bit, and you don't want to rush it to the next stage.
Definitely. So really give into your partner's center by applying a little bit of body weight, but do it through the center, not collapsing the upper body. So when he feels where your weight is, it's much easier to know how to continue the walk, isn't that so?
It is, yes, it is much more satisfying as well. So not only easier, but satisfying because the connection is much, much better.
Yeah, definitely the same for me.
Okay, so let's show it for a few months and then we are going to start with our patadas. So I'm going to play this for a few moments.
So what is it going to be tonight?
Well, we'll use a bit of Torino and the Milonguera in the end.
Ah, okay.
Yes. Okay. I discharge my weight onto my hip. I start pushing on the heel. Project, and off we go. To perfect that caminata together as a couple. Alright, okay, so today is all about patadas. What patada is basically a kick. If you look at the direct translation from Spanish, it's something that you can use to when you literally kick something. So we're going to show you the technique for the kick. Now, there's something that I would like to say before we even start on the technique is the difference between a kick and a gancho. So, if you want to simplify a little bit, the kick is only going to be a forward movement of the leg, therefore the leg can straighten and you can have this sudden energy of the kick. One, we're going to show you in a moment. A gancho, however, is a bit different because it can be a back movement where the knee is going to bend. So if you want to categorize this into boxes, patadas and ganchos might think a bit similar because there's this movement, this sharp movement if you like, except there's one which is going forward and one which is going back. So this is roughly how you can simplify a little bit between the two. Yeah? So I'll show you one thing. So I have this little box on the floor which is a little bit heavy so that I don't push it throughout the studio. It has a bit of weight, and the reason I have this box is really to show you the movement of the kick. So the kick is not coming from the hips, not coming from the knee, it's basically coming from the lower part of my leg. Think of it as you want to literally kick something which is next to the floor. One. Now of course, as we'll see, there are kicks which are higher, the kicks are a bit lower, but now we'll start with things which are on the floor, which is this thing here. So if you have something which is a bit heavy, put it on the floor and you can kick this thing here. Yes, it's a bit scary. The sound it made. I have no idea what I broke. It's okay. It doesn't matter. So let's see.
All the purpose for a good class.
Exactly. It's probably shy now in there. So when I open the box, I'm like, oh, that was it. I forgot what you were. Okay, so it's fine. So you go and you kick by having the energy directed towards the floor, not up here. So if I do it without the box, so I can have a bit of a stronger kick, it's going to be something like 1. Yes, it's there. It's not again this. It's not a knee kick basically.
Yes, so I would see it as so you are keeping your hips, as Bruno was explaining, you're keeping your hips in the same alignment, so nothing is changing here during your kick. And see it as a movement of the forelegs. So pin the knee and then kick from below the knee. So we are not taking the knee on a different height than what it is originally, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So of course we can have a little bit higher kicks, which is what we are going to explain, but we have to set good habits because we don't want to be kicking
Too much.
too much all the wrong things.
It needs to be safe. Exactly. Exactly. So I think what Paula just mentioned here is very important for you leaders and for us to understand that basically a kick is first stage or first phase is getting the knee where it needs to be. You fix the knee where it is and then you do your kick here. So it's nothing like you go knee and leg together because that would be too high, maybe too much energy. So knee and kick. Yes, it goes into 2 stages. It's much more precise if you do so. And we have a different combination. So in a way it's very different from a gancho where the knee is still pushing back all the way as you bend. Yeah? So this is a bit different, the patada from the gancho if you've done ganchos. 1, 2. Yeah? So it's a bit sharp. Think of it as kicking a ball, but not kicking a ball to make it go up, kicking a ball to make it go forward. Yes? And forward here. Good.
Then you can try maybe both legs, no, as an exercise.
Absolutely.
You can try left and right, left and then collect, and right and collect.
I think I'm going to do that, but with a bit of music.
Sure.
It's more interesting, no?
Yeah, I think so.
So let's do it together.
So maybe I face in another direction.
Yeah. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. I engage my core as I do. So there's minimal movement in the hips. Boom. Yum. Boom. Boom. What you might want to do, leaders, and for us, what I will add to it, is point your foot as you do your kick. Point.
Can we turn this one?
Boom. Boom.
So complete the extension by adding the stretch of the foot, yes? So we don't end up with an unfinished line like that. So stretch. Okay. Point the foot each time now. So the energy is out, yes? So not out in, but out.
Again, you want something away from you. Kick something to go away from you alongside the floor. So I have one more comment to make. Maybe a bit less volume. What I do when I'm kicking is basically I feel the muscle around my knee contracting suddenly. You have to have this sudden surge. So this is different from doing this. See here there is no real design. The leg is not really doing anything special. So we want to prepare the knee, and here there's a real boom. Yeah, so there's a sudden acceleration of the foot, and then the foot stops suddenly as if it has hit something. Yeah, so there's a limit to the patada. So it's one and it stops there.
And hold the position for maybe a second, no?
Exactly, yes. Try not to do this, because of course it will make a lot of imbalance in your body. So make sure, boom, and there's control, yes? Come, control with your axis and balance, of course. Come, I'm not allowing this to happen. Come. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's give everyone a few moments to practice the patadas, the kicks.
If you have any questions, guys, throughout the class, let us know by dropping them in the comment section below. Yeah?
Okay, so let's stop the music for a second. Here we had a few questions. So, do the patadas stay with the floor? Note that both of us, we had a little bit of flip from the floor for extra effects. If you want to, of course, you can leave them on the floor. It has a bit less effect, of course. It feels a bit less, with less energy, but it's possible. Now, this actually might be a very good idea if you have very close space. For example, we're going to see what to do, when to use these patadas. It might be very good to really have this element of precision. If you can lift a bit by an inch or two, okay. If you think it's unsafe, then by all means leave it to the floor. One.
And the other question was, what is the leg doing before it goes forward? So, are any technical points for what the leg does to collect energy to go into the patada?
For me, I start engaging the thigh here and around my knee to have this effect of kicking. A bit like you kick a football.
So you need to build up the energy to discharge it, no? To point out the leg. So it would be very strange to just go from there. There's not much of a purpose. So usually, and you will see later, usually the energy is gathered slightly behind and then you go forward with it.
Exactly. You don't have to go very, very far behind, of course. We don't mean to say that to go here, that's way too much. But just a bit, pump so that you have a bit of design, because going from here is
there's nothing to kick.
it's not enough space, if you like, not enough build up. So you go a little bit and tuck. So not too much, maybe like this much, so that you can kick here alongside the floor. Alright, good. So we are going to apply this beginners and improvers to the ocho forwards. Now, I'd like to review quickly what the forward ocho is. It's not the entire point today, but for those who haven't done this very much, we'd like to show you how it looks and how to get into it very quickly. I'm going to, maybe back to the floor, back to the camera, sorry. I'm going to be in this angle, and I'm going to be on my left leg whilst my partner is onto her right leg. I'm going to use what is called my dissociation. So dissociation is a process where I leave my hips where they are, and I'm going to pivot the upper part of my body so that now my partner is facing my left. Can you see? I was here, and I'm going to do this here. Now I'm going to make sure, come back, and I'm going to do a left step to the left, and have a dissociation to the other side before I do another ocho. So the ocho is basically a step sideways for me, forward for my partner, followed by dissociation for me, and a full pivot for my partner. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll have a bit of different angles so you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Note, leaders, that I take my time for my ocho. 1 beat for the pivot and 1 beat for the step. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Note that this is actually important, the timing. If you go too quickly, there will be no patada possible, because the time you'll have for the patada will be too short to actually do it safely. Yeah, again, safety of course is very important here. So I'm going to modify a little bit the shape of my ocho adelante, ocho forward, to make it one step and then I don't move. Let me show you. I'm going to start in the same configuration. I pivot my partner, I go to the side, and then here I'm not going to go, I'm just sending her around me. And I do the same, I do a step to the side, and I send her around me here. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. So let me explain to leaders very quickly how it works. If I go to the side, I'm going to keep my dissociation and I take my partner with me. That is my signal to say, please come forward and step forward. Now, as I'm here, I step to the left. My left is taken by my weight. I'm going to pivot. Now my partner is facing the other direction. At this time, she doesn't know if I'm going to step with her or not. But what I'm going to do, instead of opening with my right leg here, I'm going to open with the upper part of my body, which is my embrace. Especially think of your right shoulders, sending her around you to invite her to step around. So for us, Paula will add a few things, but for us, make sure that if your leader is not moving, make sure that you stay close to him. So the first step might look a bit like a forward step, straight line, but the second step is a bit more of an arch around him so that you keep the same distance to him. If he's not moving and you are, it means that your foot, your step, has to be a little bit of an arch.
So if there is displacement of the leader with you, the size of the step is likely to be different. If there is no displacement, they send you around his center, that is going to be a more circular step and probably smaller as well. Yeah? So it's with displacement and without displacement. Yes? It feels much smaller with displacement and without displacement.
Now I have one little comment to make. Leaders, I don't know if you realize here, but as you send your partner around you, you're not only going to send her once. That means she's here, now she's here. You're not taking her back, you could, but it's not what we're going to do here. So as you send her here, you have to pivot a little bit on your right leg so that you're facing her for the side step. Let me show you again. So I'm going to go here, I send her around, I pivot her, and before I start, I have a little bit of rotation of the hip, so now my hips are facing her. Otherwise, we are in almost Americana, which is not the intention here. And I need to go around, pivot, and go. My pivot is after I led the rotation. She's here, she's ready to go, I can feel it, she's waiting for me. I pivot first, and then we go together. So followers, make sure that you wait for the signal so that the leader has the time to pivot before the forward step for you and the side step for him. Okay. So why am I creating this new structure of an ocho where half is what I would call the traveling ocho and the other half is the non-traveling ocho? Simply because I need a time when I have the chance to do my patada, and this is exactly what I'm creating here. 1. Now at this stage I'm on the left leg, my right is free, and I'm going to send her around, and this is the perfect opportunity to do my little patada. So what happened here is I send her and quickly I do my patada in and out before she can collect. Here, boom. Here, boom. Here.
So would it be correct to say that the dynamic of this patada is out-in?
Yes,
Obviously
it is, yeah, exactly. I'm actually sending my partner as she starts her foot step forward around me. I bring my right out and immediately in here. So it's 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Can you see? Bam, bam. That's what I'm doing. Here. Pim, pim. In terms of timing, I can't do my patada and freeze my patada here because she's going to stumble when her back foot is collecting. So make sure that this patada is in between the moment when she opens the leg and the moment she closes the leg.
It should not interfere with the step of the follower. Yeah, so we shouldn't feel anything. We feel something is happening, but hopefully nothing will kick us. So it's at that moment of when we achieve the middle point that the patada happens. When I start moving to my axis, the leg is already out.
Exactly.
Yeah?
Exactly. So in a way, leaders, this is very, very different from a sacada, where in a sacada we try to establish contact. In the case of the patada, we don't necessarily try to establish contact because we want this to be non-intrusive. It's more see it as a decoration. Yeah, there's no one is being kicked. We just have a little decoration of a kicking inside the legs, but I'm not establishing contact with her back leg. Here I prepare up. Here I prepare patada. Pom, patada. So this is quick, but on the other hand, I'm not trying to make it so quick that it becomes difficult for my own balance. One hand, that's what it is. Pom, pom. Not faster, not this, but not this. This would be actually starting to have an impact on her back leg, and this is not intentional.
So you still have time to shape it?
Yes, absolutely. 1, 2. Pom, pom. One more time. So, here, patada, and I come back. Here, patada, and I come back. Here. Now, one thing that I would like to mention to leaders, in terms of the design of the actual patada, I might, if I want to, add a little bit of this. Now, this little ruler before the patada can help me in some cases to have a better balance. Yes, so it's here, I pivot, and this gives me a bit of impetus for the actual patada. So it's around, boom. This is not a must, this is just a little something I add to my patada to make it nicer.
So it's like an extra decoration, basically?
Yes, exactly. It's preparing and jump. You can leave it here, go a bit back, and here. I find this circle movement a little bit easier to manage in terms of timing, and also because my foot is on the floor, it helps me a little bit with balance as well. So if you want to practice leaders, rulo, jump. Rulo, pom. Rulo is out, circle, and then straight in. Pom. Okay. Let's switch with music, shall we?
Okay.
We'll give you a few moments to practice your first patada. We shall be back. Let's continue. So we had a few questions about how to ensure the safety of the follower. This is, of course, a very important question from some of you. So basically, two things need to happen. First of all, when I do my patada, my embrace needs to stay very calm. I know it's a little bit of this happening because on one hand you're a bit sharp here, and on the other hand you need to be soft here. Why is it so important? Because if I do my patada and I have a sudden jerk of movement in my upper part of the torso, I'm going to have the consequence of accelerating my follower. Therefore, the time I have for my patada is getting much smaller, and there are more chances to kick my follower. So this is the first thing that you need to do to practice, leaders, is to make sure that as you do your patada, you stay quite calm up here, and you don't use your partner like this, you know, saying you don't pull her for your patada. This is the first thing that needs to happen.
So yeah, it would be a good exercise, like we said before, first do the ochos, and then when you put the patada, nothing should change in the leading.
Exactly.
Yeah, so not to interfere with what the follower has to do. And one thing that I think it might help for followers is, if we just do it, okay? I have to respond to exactly the size of the step that the leader is sending me to. Because if there is a miscommunication and he's sending me into a big step and I do a small step, let's say for the kick.
Okay,
So if Bruno wants to kick and I do a short step, this might be just about okay, but it might end up kicking my leg. So I have to make sure that I do the size of the step that I'm being indicated to do. Yeah?
So that's why leaders have a frank opening here. But look at the reaction from Paula. She's going through the 4 stages of her walk here, of her step. She's not jumping. Can you see how it would actually be to jump? She's not jumping forward here, which makes my time too quick. You know, it's impossible to be that quick here. So if you need to have a patada, you slow her down, and then you have more time. And of course, as Paula said, if you open a bit more with your dissociation, don't hesitate to open a bit more, then it will indicate a bigger step.
Yeah.
And this is what actually is going to happen.
So if you indicate a big step, you have more chances for the patada to happen properly.
Exactly.
Don't lead a small step and then complain the patada's not working.
Exactly. So look at this. So, 1, 2. See what's happening here? I create a little bit of space here, so I have more space for my patada. Now if I'm in complete close embrace, your patada is going to be possible, of course, but it's going to be a very tiny one like this, because you don't have any space for your legs to go beyond this. So
I'm not even sure there is much of a purpose to do.
Well, you know, if I
it's not
do
very satisfying.
patada in close embrace, yeah, it's a patadita, you know, a small one.
A very shy patada.
Shy patada. So if you want more design, then open the embrace. That makes every step a bit bigger, and therefore I have more time for my patada and more space. Boom. Here. Boom.
Okay.
Okay. Alright, you don't want this, okay.
I want to move on.
You want to move on?
That's fine.
Okay, alright. So, we're going to do the same. So, leaders, we're going to do the same, but on the other side of the ocho. Now, you might be tempted to say, well, it's the other side, therefore I go with the other leg. It's possible, but my recommendation is to keep on the right leg doing the patada because it's more stable. So, I'll show you. Rather than doing the patada here, I'm going to go to the right, to the right here. I'm going to do my patada, hop, and then I'm going to come here. Pump, 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 pump. So, a couple of things that you need to keep in mind is in this kind of patada, you have less space because you are on the other side of the ombre. So it's always easier to start with the first one. Now the one here, you have less control of the follow-arm because you can only use that part of the embrace and it feels a bit tighter, so this is quite normal. I'm going to be going into leading the follower to my left hand side. I do my patada and then I finish up the same way as before. And off we go. And of course, the idea is I can alternate 1 and 2. 1 and 2, in which case I don't have to displace my weight from left to right. So here we show two things. The first one, the sequence for the leader, is dissociation to the left, inviting our partner around, patada, and then a side step to the right. Dissociation to the left, patada, little pivot, and right. The second version was the leader being static, just leading his partner left and right. Know that I'm flexing a bit the knees because it allows me to go a little bit deeper in my dissociation. Here. And I'm going to go patada, patada. Every time she steps forward, I'm going to do my patada here. I take my time to stand on the other side, and so on and so forth. You might have to, in this case, in the last example, have a little bit of pivot every time, if necessary, but not much more than this. Second trick. So, here, I'm sending her this way and this way. Boom, 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 boom.
Okay, music time?
Music time, so let's show it to you. Again, it's what you want, what you can do is up to you. So you now have 3 different versions. Okay, we'll give you a few minutes to practice your patadas. Alright, okay, so
guys, it's almost that time to wrap up the class. I just wanted to give one tip. I don't know if you have something to say. I would say for the leaders, just make sure that you lead the ocho before you do the patada, okay? Because timing is everything. You have to set her in motion in order to get to the middle point. If you first think of the patada and then leading, this is what is going to cause problems, yeah?
Okay, so for me, the little tip I would like to give to leaders is to make sure that you really aim to the center. Remember the sacada, if you know what sacadas is a bit different, you might aim to one leg or the other. Here we just aim to the center because it's the safest place to be. And the reason, of course, I do that is because there's much more space for the entirety of my leg here and my foot. If I'm here, that means I'm roughly in the center as she goes forward, which is giving more time than if I aim here, in which case she is probably going to touch me or maybe I'm going to kick her. Again, this is not necessarily a bad thing to kick the leg if it's intended and if it's a sacada, but normally the difference with the sacada, if you have done sacadas, is that there is a continuation of movement of the leader onto the leg that actually goes forward.
So yes, there is a different purpose.
Different purpose. Here we go and we come back, and it's just a little decoration.
So we're going to show you a lot more examples, guys, because we have a lot in store for you on the second class. But for now, because we must wrap up the class, what is going on this week with the classes?
So this week we are Wednesday, so we are back on Friday. So Friday is a bit of a special solo technique evening at 7 p.m. for leaders and 8 for followers, and we're going to see what's happening on the other side. So basically I'm not talking in too much detail what's happening here on Friday, but it's going to be very interesting, leading versus following, and how to better understand the other role so we can be better at our own role. So what are the expectations, the timing, and the communication between the two roles, putting this into context. So it should be a very, very interesting session for you. On Sunday, we are back for our number 2 of PATADAS. Really, really exciting. We really like this topic. Next week, Tuesday, 12:30 p.m. is our next workout. And of course, Wednesday is the next week.
And guys, so if you have missed some of the classes and if you want to check out what we have been doing, tango.co.uk/library. This is where we store all of our classes online. And Instagram, pay us a visit at Tanguito Academy at Paula Duarte Tango. The last one is the same as my website if you're interested to have a look. And finally, tanguito.co.uk/donate. This is a place to go and buy a ticket. If you've not done that yet, please give us a hand by buying a ticket, and if you can provide a little bit more than a donation would be amazing. Thank you so much, guys, and we are going to proceed to doing a little demonstration for you guys. Just a quick sip of water.
Okay. Let's change the song. That works. If not, we can do something else. Oh, perfect.
Mirar en tus ojos, estar junto a ti. Piensa que mañana Como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame mucho, que tengo miedo perderte. Tengo miedo perderte
Thank you very much for joining us today. We are back in about 15 minutes at 8 p.m. UK time for your intermediate and advanced PATADAS class. Have a good break.
Enjoy your break, guys, and see you very soon. Hi guys, welcome back. We hope you had a great break.
So today is all about patadas. So we have a class for beginners improvers. First, if you like, first patadas, easy patadas. And we're going to develop this topic today. But first, we'd like to, if you just join us, first of all, say to you a very big welcome, but also to explain what are patadas if you don't know already. So patada translates roughly as a kick. And what we did in the beginner lesson is to define the shape of that kick. So as a quick reminder, a patada is the leg being sent forwards and not backwards. Of course, we'll see we can combine them with ganchos, but this is a different topic. But the patada itself is simply that energy going forward here. Be careful that you're not sending, as we said, the knee up or the hip forward. We maintain the hip as they are, and we do the patada this way, 1 and 2. So what you have as a choice, of course, is how high you're going to send your leg and your foot. Now, it depends on the different factors, the effect you want to give, but also, of course, how much space you have in between the legs that you're kicking, because this is the whole point. And the more space, of course, the safer it is to send it a bit higher. As we'll see, there are patadas where the follower is going to also kick, and she has more space than when the leader is kicking, because of course it's easier as a leader to kick because you know exactly what you are doing as opposed to being led to kick, if that makes sense. So we are going to start with a little exercise. Maybe if followers can join as well, it would be a good thing to do because that will prepare you for the next phases. And this is what we are going to do. We are going to do a kick or patada, maintaining the hip this way. I'm going to come back into axis with my foot, and I'm going to have a bit of rotation on my left leg here. So kick and rotation, kick and rotation. Note that the rotation comes from a little bit of displacement of my axis to the left, from here, here, and here. So if you do it with me, we'll put a bit of music. Let's go back to our troilo. I'm going to stretch nicely here, make sure I keep the core engaged, and I'm going to have my entire weight onto my left leg, like doing all the patadas. E, 1, 1, 1. Note here I'm stopping a little bit with my patada for balance. If you can do the same without stopping, it would be something like pam, 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 pam. And of course, the source of my pivot is my dissociation, making sure that every time I prepare for the next patada. Pam, pam, pam. How much pivot will depend, of course, on the lead you are giving to your follower. This is what you are going to find out now. So leaders, this is going to be the structure of what we want to do here. I'm going to send my partner in what we sometimes call a promenade, which is simply forward stepping. So I'm sending her in outro situation, and I'm just sending her. I initiate the structure by having a side step. So every time I collect, she goes from left to right. So in a way it looks like I'm stepping twice as fast as she does. And she's going to match the beat of the song, where for me, I'm going to match the beat with the left on the floor. So this is our simple promenade structure.
So followers walk with a heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, taking the axis over the foot. This is why it is important to go heel toe, yeah, and not toe heel.
As a leader, what I'll have to do once I've initiated my structure, I'm going to make it a bit shorter or a bit more on the spot, because what I need to do now is to stay on one foot whilst I'm doing my patadas. So what I need to do here is a much sharper pivot right like that. And as I feel I have more control, I can start doing my patadas here. Boom, boom, boom. And so on. So it's not necessarily something which is very complicated. I give you a little tip. If you feel that you are lacking a little bit of strength when it comes to leading the follower forward, two things need to happen. First of all, try to keep as much dissociation as you can to the left. And the second thing is, as you come back from your patada, you can, if you like, have a little bit of push of the big toe of that leg onto the floor, which makes you rotate here. So you're cheating a bit here, but it's only if you feel that you are running out of steam, if you like, in your patadas. Let's take a look. Here, I push myself a little bit. To allow me to pivot and therefore to send my partner around.
So once more, as we were saying in the previous class, make sure you lead your partner. Leaders, please. Don't aim just for the kick, because we need to keep going around. Yeah, so this is really important to have the right timing but also the right lead. So always the anticipation before your kick. We need to enter the space. And followers, stay around the leader. Yes, when you walk around, don't walk too far away, because it will be easier to open the space more and more. So when you're walking around the leader, stay close, yeah? Here, stay close to the space of the leader.
So this might be one way to finish my little sequence here. I wait for her to step onto her left leg, I gather my feet, I pivot her to face me, and I end up with a sanguchito. So the last might be this one, and then I finish in this position here. If you want to start it a little bit, maybe it's best if your knees are starting to connect and have this position, which is basically the corte for leaders in this case. So let's have a look with music. Of course, you can do it only once or twice. That works as well. No problem. You don't have to do it many times. And any other combination would work. One, two, three. Because the song was inspiring me to do so. So try to see what kind of combination you can have with the music. Sometimes without patadas, sometimes with patadas. So you don't have to practice.
So we had a question, well, we had two questions. One was, what is the version of Besame Mucho that we played at the end for the demonstration at the end of the first class? And it's Romantica Milonguera. If you are watching this, we love you. This is an amazing orchestra, go and check them out. The second thing is, why did I advise to go on the heel toe during the promenade walk? I generally walk forward that way, so it's not because this exercise is asking me to walk forward with the heel toe. It's just the way that I walk forward, because I think it's a better technique, it's more dynamic entering the space that way. So hopefully that answers your question.
So I'm going to move on to our next chapter, which is a patada, so a simple patada between legs. I'm going to show you the mechanics, how to achieve it, and then we're going to incorporate it with a pivot. So this is what I'd like you to do if you have a partner, to go back and then lead your partner a patada. So how do I achieve this patada? Basically, think of it as a contra movement. I'm sending my partner forward and I have a sudden stop. I apply the brakes quite suddenly and I use the residual energy of the leg to produce my patada. So it's going to be one, boom. See here, I push against her, and because of the energy of the leg, she goes a little bit further with the free leg here. One more time. Boom, boom. One, push. One, and push.
So what takes me into the patada is the energy to enter the space, interrupted by the break of the embrace. This is what's make the leg not continue traveling forward, but it stops mid-air, causing the patada. Yes?
So of course this is possible in close embrace, or it's actually even easier in close embrace. I'm going to have that element here before I come back. So how do I prepare for this patada? First of all, think of two little things, leaders. Do not think of stepping back with your follower and then doing the patada. The patada has to be planned before you do it, and you need to do these two things. First of all, you need to make sure that you're going to go a little bit further than normal, having your bum stick out a tiny bit, because you want to have this element of pull for the leg to go up. Second thing that you need to do is, if I show you here, do not think of completely back step, think of a slightly diagonal, so that you are already preparing the opening of the leg. Of course, you don't want to have a patada where your legs are closed or almost closed, because then she's sure to be kicking you and this will be your fault. So make sure that you are making it safe for yourself by opening a little bit diagonal. And what I do is get on my toes, because that actually allows me to have a sharper stop. I don't go all the way to my heels, because that would actually take a bit more time. So think these two elements. First of all, opening, lifting, and stopping abruptly the movement forward. Maybe you just cut this slightly this way. Okay, so here, palm, palm, and here. Now for followers, the idea of the patada here is that I'm not going to, as a follower, rush the in and out. I wait for the return of the leader. So that means that if he's lifting you and keeping you here for a second or two, try to feel that and try to freeze until he's relaxing into his next step. So my next step is going to be my left going forward. Pom pom, and I relax into my next step here.
And one word about how high the leg should go. Now this is common sense, because we are going in the middle, the space is quite close. One more time, don't go with that leg too high. Yes, so try to fix the knee at one point, fix the knee, and then move the foreleg under the knee. Don't take the leg from the hip, okay? It's going to make you lose your alignment, but also it's going to be too high, it can give problems. Yes, you know what I'm talking about, I think. So, keep that.
You want this to be safe for you guys, so I would recommend not to overdo it by overlifting a partner. But a little
So
lift,
common sense, yeah?
Exactly.
And as Bruno was saying, the coming out of the position, wait for the coming back usually is transmitted by the standing leg of the leader. Yeah, so the standing leg is giving a little bit of flexion. The free leg goes into the collection together simultaneously.
So think of it this way, you go a little bit up on your toes, and as you relax on the heel is the signal for the follower to relax the leg, and we are going together. This is how you achieve synchronicity in your patada. So I'm going to, so this is the most basic patada for followers. It's also relatively safe. It's actually also done quite frequently at the milonga. We are going to add a tiny bit of element of complexity where I'm going to add a pivot beforehand. Now I'm not going to think of it as this. This is not going to work. I'm not going to be able to do a pivot and then suddenly I start pivoting my partner, suddenly I want a patada here. It's too late. Because of the rotation, she will most likely kick my right leg if I do so. So I'm going to cheat a little bit by not inviting her sideways and rotation into an ocho. I'm going to send her a little bit forward, and therefore as she comes back she will have more the element of coming towards me. Yes, so it doesn't have to be a big displacement of the axis. Let me show you maybe without.
Maybe diagonal would be better.
Yeah, so that they see the
Okay.
side here. I'm not doing this here and then trying necessarily to have my patada here. I'm going to send her a little bit away so I can open and close the embrace. Can you see? 1, 2.
So there are going to be a little bit of that colgada feeling. It's important to activate the embrace, because if we don't activate the embrace, we can't come back quickly and then break it quickly for the patada to happen. So the moment that there is a release of the embrace, we need to activate the outer part. So we have something, an elastic that's bringing back to the space. So let me maybe show it. With demonstration might be a little bit easier.
1, 2.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2. Here I exaggerate a little bit the opening of the embrace to show you, but this is a little bit the idea, is away so that you can take her in. So how am I taking my partner in? I'm driving her forward with the right part of my embrace. As soon as she starts coming, I immediately push her away with the left part here. So this is why followers and leaders alike have to be quite a firm embrace to decipher and get all these signals in time. Okay, one last time. 1, 2, and then we can exit here. So I believe you had a little exercise for followers with the.
Reminds me? Yeah, since you have a better memory than me, apparently. Okay, can you remind me which one was it?
Yes, for the gancho.
Ah, we've been the gancho already?
Yes, absolutely.
Ah, okay, we're moving on.
Yeah.
Oh, we're moving on. Okay, I didn't know that. All right.
Still the same step, but a little bit of
Okay,
different.
guys. So from here, we are going to go into the patada here, and then we're going to turn, turn, turn. And the reason why this is here now is for you to see the space here needs to be free. Don't interfere with the space in front of you. But we're going to turn, 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 180 degrees from here to here and up. Okay, so here and up. Now it's important that the upper body is not going with your leg together in block, but it's going to stay, and this is the difficulty with this exercise, is going to stay facing forward as much as possible. This is a difficulty here. You're going to have to take it a little bit with you to make sure you can actually turn the hip, otherwise it's impossible to pivot the standing leg. And from here, you're going into the gancho there. Now, if you apply a little bit of speed for that, you're going to go start together here and gancho, okay? So the impulse is going to be given by the leader, so we're going to show you very, very soon with the couple, don't worry. So he's going to take me here with my embrace, and then I pivot the standing leg and gancho. Actually, I think let's show it together, because it's a little bit difficult to explain if they don't know what I'm talking about.
So, what I'm going to do, leaders, is I'm going to change a little bit my lead. I'm going to start exactly the same as we were doing just now. I'm going to send my partner a little bit away, and I'm sending my partner in between my legs here. Now, at the same time as she's going with her leg forward, I'm going to ground her and bring, have a very, very sharp amount of dissociation, and note that my hand is going to my shoulder. How or why? Basically, don't think of it as a normal dissociation. The follower is going to be over-rotated. She has basically her back to you. Yes, so it's quite a fair amount of pivot suddenly, and therefore you need her to help a great deal. So you need to help her a great deal, sorry. And this is going to be only possible if you go in and out here by sending your hand right here. And you're going to finish with a little sandwich here. So let's do a few times. Here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here.
One word about the standing leg, because there's going to be quite a lot of pivot. It's quite hard to keep the heel off the floor, and it also does not stylize it as much as it could. So I would recommend you that once you have your patada and you start turning, lift the heel off the floor rather than keeping it on the floor, because it's going to be actually quite hard when you have weight on the standing leg to be able to do that much amount of pivot. So if I can show it with you, please.
Mm-hmm. So, here, 1, 2, 3. Leaders, the return from the gancho is a bit difficult for the follower, as Paula just mentioned, so therefore give her plenty of time to pivot. Do not rush that pivot here.
It's going to feel a little bit tricky when you start trying this exercise because there is so much pivot and we still need to be with the leader, so it's absolutely normal, going to be hard to do it at first. So there is a few things that can help you with the upper body. Keep the shoulder blade down when you are turning. Be careful with this because this is going to limit the amount of disassociation you have. So keep the shoulder blade dropping to the floor and keep it open as much as possible. The alignment of the shoulders needs to be parallel with the floor. If I take that out of alignment, I will not have space to pivot that much inside the embrace.
Here, we do very slowly patada, and then grounding and a sharp pivot where I send my hand all around as far as I can make it to help her as much as I can. And I'm going to do the reverse and gently finish with a sandwich. And maybe you can do that at the end. So I know it's a bit strange, it's a bit unusual perhaps for some leaders, but the hand has to also help in this overturn. So let me show you what I mean. Here, in. Now my hand will have to go and rotate a little bit so that I can send my partner a bit this way. Can you see? I'm not completely facing with my hand because this would be quite tough for my shoulder. So to alleviate a little bit of that, I'm going to allow my follower to grab my thumb a little bit for a quick moment before I take the embrace back in.
Can we show once with the other front so I can swing out left arm? Let me just remove this so they can see what's happening with my left arm here. So yes, if you can do this way. Yeah, so the patada can be this way. No, that's it. So one word about this arm. If you have your arm here, it's not going to help you because if I stick with my arm here now, I can't really pivot that much. So I would recommend that your left arm slides to Bruno's arm here, well, to your leader's arm, so that you can keep the alignment of the shoulders parallel, so you can keep the alignment of the shoulders parallel here. You see, so the alignment is parallel with the floor. The moment that I try to keep this arm there, you see, I'm completely out of the alignment. Yeah, so slide it here, and then to get out, use the pressure of the right arm to pivot back.
So this is a moment, leaders, where we need to be very stable because we need to push the follower and help her do a pivot. To be honest, it's probably there are not so many nice alternatives of the exits. This is probably the best because you need to make it very, very slow, and therefore it helps the follower. So if we show it again, it's 1, 2, 3, and around here. Maybe of course you can finish if you prefer this way. So note that the timing of this gancho after patada is crucial. If I do it too slowly, the follower might bring her foot a little bit down, and then the opportunity for the gancho is gone. So you might want to think of it as a syncopation. Pam, pam, yes? Something like that. Here, pam, pam. That's the only way for the follower to be able to do it without too much torsion and too much effort, because she still has the leg a bit up, so it's a bit of rotation of the hip, and then she finishes with the control.
So what happens with the free leg, let me just show you this way. So the leg is in the air, maybe this is even better. The leg is in the air, and now I'm going to keep the leg in the air here, so it's in the same alignment. It didn't move up or down, but goes in the same alignment until it breaks from the gancho, but it breaks only from the knee. It's not taking everything again out of alignment. The hip is kept, the level of the hip is kept throughout the whole exercise, and it's breaking for the gancho here. Yes? Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense.
So we'll show it a couple of times with music, and then we'll give you a minute to practice. Okay, your time to practice a bit. Oh, maybe a bit more time. Okay, alright, so let's move on to our next example of the patada. So, for the next example, I'm going to use what we just started with. So it's going to be a bit easier because we already covered that specific point. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to lift my partner to have the patada here. Now I'm going to go through my center, displace our weight, and lead another patada. And another one. So how am I making sure this happens? I'm going to ground her and lift her again. 1. So think of it as this leaders. You go, you lift your partner, you ground her, and you lift again. And because you have a tiny bit of displacement from one leg to the other, she will understand that this grounding means a change of weight, and she will send the other leg.
And one thing that it might really help both of you is when you are pushing, push from the standing leg. So when you lift, don't lift your follower from here, because this is going to cause a very late reaction for the change of the weight and for the next patada. So if you wanted to change the weight, it's going to induce a much quicker reaction, going to the floor, using your knees, and then pushing again to come back into straight legs. So avoid not using just the arms, not using just the upper body. Okay.
So we'll show you is the music maybe. So we give you a moment to practice and it's your track.
Let us know guys if you have any questions, yes? We read them all the time.
Me encontré sin ti y entonces te busqué por los caminos del recuerdo y en el recodo más.
So, I would like to answer to one of the questions we had on our stream, which is how to lead that kind of weight, and basically how does the follower understand she has the opportunity for a second patada. So basically what happens here is I'm lifting her, I'm sending the leg in, and then as I drop, she understands she needs to drop. So I'm going to drop my energy to the floor, and I'm going to start having a little bit of transfer of weight from, let's say, left to right or right to left, if, depending on which leg I'm on, and I'm going to do it. So you think of it as 1, 2, so down, up, but with the legs. I know it's a bit hard to see from here, perhaps. Maybe if I do it diagonal, it's 1 and 2. So I use my calves, my toes to lift my partner, discharge the weight, and send on the other side. So there's a little bit of this happening to indicate alternating legs here.
There is one additional point that we didn't touch upon about this step is I feel that there is disassociation for the next patada. So it's coming back to neutral and then disassociation, coming back to neutral and disassociation. So what I feel, if I may show my back, maybe that's... So we're going to do it from here.
Yeah.
So I feel this and then a little bit of disassociation. So this helps me to accompany the movement with my leg going into patada. That movement of rotation, together with the change of the height of the leader, is going to help me understand. I change the weight and then I go into the next patada when I stretch my standing leg. Yeah?
Alright, so we'll cover our last example of patada. It's going to be, we had a look at leaders patadas at the beginning, then we had a look at followers patadas, and then we're going to make both work at the same time. So it's a double patada, so it's quite an interesting one. So look at this. I'm going to start the same way as before. I'm going to do an ocho, and the last ocho I'm going to send her a little bit forward as if I'm going into Americana. So I might have to change my weight and go with the left. Okay? Let me show you again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and here I'm going to send her into patada by lifting her, and because she just rotated, see what happens here, she's in slight volcada. At the same time, I'm going to send my foot at the same time here. Boom. And I'm going to go reverse and get into this kind of control here. So let's do it maybe in this angle. 1, 2, 3, and reverse this way.
Maybe another...
Yeah. So I prepare, I get into that position, and into here. So a couple of things for you leaders. First of all, make sure that as the follower is turning, you don't lift her to make her step, you lift her and you block her. So it's really a patada, except it's a patada on your side here, is one. And as I'm sending her here, I send my own patada. Now what's a bit tricky for the leader, of course, is to turn the lady around, to wait for her to pass, so that we are able to enter the space with the right leg here. So be very, very careful with the last little step. You don't have to do it, by the way, because you could easily do this. If it's a bit tricky, the exit, you could easily go into patada and finish here. Can you see? This is slightly easier combination where I'm sending in and out, and I go here. Except, of course, what we are going to do here is play a little bit with the shape of that patada and find the space between the legs. So the ladies are going to go around us, not too far, and I'm going to go with my toe first and establish contact to the floor before I push my weight into the right leg.
It's important to control the descending of the weight into the floor, because we are still having contact with that gancho, and if the leader is very abrupt changing the weight, it's going to take me also, and we're both going to have a lot of weight. It's not going to be a smooth transition. So really try to avoid going with the full foot on the floor, leaders, but go toes heel. I need to give a few pointers regarding the role of the follower here. There is a few things that might happen for you in this step that's going to create a little bit of difficulties. I'm just going to point them out. First of all, it's important that our alignment is good when there is the mutual patada, that my hips are on the side of the leader's hips. If I did not pivot enough, and if I end up having the leader here instead of here, where I could kick because the space is free in front of me, what happens is I'm then going to potentially kick the space in front of me, which is where the leader is. So two things is, leaders, make sure you pivot enough your follower for her to do the kick away from you, and followers also instinctively and normally you would not want to do a full patada if you see somebody in front of you. So it might be that you have to give a little bit of your own energy to finish the pivot entirely. But you will feel when you arrive to a good angle, because your hips are not facing your partner, they're going to be facing a different direction. So if I can show that with the leader, might be a little bit easier to illustrate.
So I prepare, I send her forward and boom.
So you see our hips here are almost side by side, but if I had not pivoted enough, and if I'm here, I can't send my leg into the kick. So I would end up doing something strange, like this. So my leg has not pivoted enough, so I will compensate by sending my free leg away, but then I'm going to have a very awkward angle here. If we can move to the back so they can also see the kick. Thank you, thank you. So here, pivot enough to make sure the kick is away of your partner's space. Then we have another pivot, and this is important because the position of where the gancho, the wrap should happen, is this way and not here. So I have my kick, then there is a pivot and a small back step. Yes, small back step. So I just give enough space for the leader to enter into the wrap. And then take your time to exit. The same as for the leader. Yes, so I think if the follower rushes, it's not good for
and
the
if
leader.
the leader rushes, it's the same. It's not the leader. So
yeah.
with both of us, we have to keep our cool. 1, 2, boom, and I take my time, and I finish in any way I see fit.
And lastly, that back step for the wrap has to be not too big away from the leader, otherwise the transferring of the weight is going to be quite hard if the follower is very far away from the leader. Yes, so small back step.
Number of followers, the further of us you are, the bigger my side step will need to be and the harsher my landing on the floor will be, because obviously, you know, it's going to be very difficult to have a soft landing if my legs are apart. So I'm going to go here, boom, here, I take my time, and then I sink into the following state. Shall we do the music?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Lejano te habitaba por volver y por librarte de tu infierno y te arrastró hasta allí tu vida sin amor con tu dolor y tu silencio y disfrazamos un pasado que luchaba por querer volver y fuiste tú la que alegró mi soledad quien transformó en locura mi pasión y mi ternura y en horror mi noche mansa. Mi tanto triste fuiste en tu vida y el siempre más que tú en mí.
Okay, so we give you a few seconds to practice, and we'll be back to wrap up the class.
A un lado en mi camino. Y es muy tarde ya para volver llorando atrás y contener la angustia que por angustia duele mucho más.
Okay, so let us wrap up the class. So first of all, thank you so much for coming today. A couple of announcements. We are back on Friday for our next technique class for solo dancers on the theme of leading versus following, how to better interpret and understand the other role or the other side. Sundays are number 2 for PATADAS, and Tuesday next week, 12:30, is our next Tango workout. If you are around with your computer, you can always catch up with our library. This is where you will find all our past classes, and you can also register to the WhatsApp group. This is the number to send your first and last name to, where we post all our latest events and including in-person events. If you're on Instagram, this is where to go. And finally, if you haven't done so, we would truly appreciate if you could make a donation or buy a ticket. This is the QR code that you can scan if you like to go to that page. And this is the address if you prefer to type it for donation. So if you can make your donation, that'd be absolutely marvelous. So let's finish with a little dance.
Piensa que no me mañana, yo te quiero, me dejo de aquí.
Thank you very much for joining today. We wish you a great Wednesday evening. See you Friday. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much, guys. See you very, very soon. Mwah.